The Anglo-Zulu War was fought in 1879 between the British Empire and the Zulu Kingdom. Following Lord Carnarvon's successful introduction of federation in Canada, it was thought that similar political effort, coupled with military campaigns, might succeed with the African kingdoms, tribal areas and Boer republics in South Africa. In 1874, Sir Henry Bartle Frere was sent to South Africa as High Commissioner for the British Empire to bring such plans into being. Among the obstacles were the presence of the independent states of the South African Republic and the Kingdom of Zululand and its army. Frere, on his own initiative, without the approval of the British government and with the intent of instigating a war with the Zulu, had presented an ultimatum on the 11th of December 1878, to the Zulu king Cetshwayo, with which the Zulu king could not comply. Bartle Frere then sent Lord Chelmsford to invade Zululand after this ultimatum was not met. The war is notable for several particularly bloody battles, including a stunning opening victory by the Zulu at the Battle of Isandlwana, as well as for being a landmark in the timeline of imperialism in the region. The war eventually resulted in a British victory and the end of the Zulu nation's independence. Background: British Empire. By the 1870s, the British Empire had colonies in southern Africa bordering on various Boer settlements, native African kingdoms such as the Zulus, and numerous indigenous tribal areas and states. Various interactions with these followed an expansionist policy. Cape Colony had been formed after the Anglo-Dutch Treaty of 1814 permanently ceded the Dutch colony of Cape Town to Britain, and its territory expanded very substantially through the 1800s. The colony of Natal was a British colony in southeastern Africa that had been proclaimed a British colony on 4 May 1843 after the British government had annexed the Boer Republic of Natalia. Matters were brought to a head when 3 sons and a brother of the Zulu chief Sarayo organized a raid into Natal and carried off 2 women who were under British protection. The discovery of diamonds in 1867 near the Vaal River, some 550 miles northeast of Cape Town, ended the isolation of the Boers in the interior and changed South African history. The discovery triggered a diamond rush that attracted people from all over the world, which turned Kimberley into a town of 50,000 within 5 years and drew the attention of British imperial interests. In the 1870s, the British annexed West Griqualand, site of the Kimberley diamond discoveries. In 1874, Lord Carnarvon, Secretary of State for the Colonies, who had successfully brought about federation in Canada in 1867, thought that a similar scheme might work in South Africa. The South African plan called for a ruling white minority over a subjugated black majority, which would provide a large pool of cheap labor for the British sugar plantations and mines. Carnarvon, in an attempt to extend British influence in 1875, approached the Boer states of the Orange Free State and the Transvaal Republic and tried to organize a federation of the British and Boer territories, but the Boer leaders turned him down. In 1877, Sir Bartle Frere was made High Commissioner for Southern Africa by Lord Carnarvon. Carnarvon appointed Frere to the position on the understanding that he would work to enforce Carnarvon's Confederation plan and, in return, Frere could then become the first British governor of a federated Southern African Dominion. Frere was sent to South Africa as High Commissioner to bring it about. One of the obstacles to such a scheme was the presence of the independent states of the South African Republic, informally known as the Transvaal Republic, and the Kingdom of Zululand. Bartle Frere wasted no time in putting the scheme forward and manufacturing a casus belli against the Zulu by exaggerating the significance of a number of recent incidents. By 1877, Sir Theophilus Shepstone, the British Secretary for Native Affairs in Natal, annexed the Transvaal Republic for Britain using a special warrant. The Transvaal Boers objected, but as long as the Zulu threat remained, found themselves between 2 threats. They feared that if they took up arms to resist the British annexation actively, King Sete and the Zulus would take the opportunity to attack the successive British annexations, and in particular the annexation of West Griqualand, however, caused a climate of simmering unease for the Boer republics. Shepstone, in his capacity as British governor of Natal, had expressed concerns about the Zulu army under King Sete and the potential threat to Natal, especially given the adoption by some of the Zulus of old muskets and other out-of-date firearms. In his new role of administrator of the Transvaal, he was now responsible for protecting the Transvaal and had direct involvement in the Zulu border dispute from the side of the Transvaal. Persistent Boer representations and Paul Kruger's diplomatic maneuverings added to the pressure. There were incidents involving Zulu paramilitary actions on either side of the Transvaal-Natal border, and Shepstone increasingly began to regard King Sete as having permitted such outrages, and to be in a defiant mood. King Sete now found no defender in Natal save Bishop John William Colenso. Colenso advocated for native Africans in Natal and Zululand who had been unjustly treated by the colonial regime in Natal. In 1874 he took up the cause of Langa Libalele and the Luba and Ngwe tribes in representations to the colonial secretary, Lord Carnarvon. Langa Libalele had been falsely accused of rebellion in 1873 and, following a charade of a trial, was found guilty and imprisoned on Robben Island. In taking the side of Langa Libalele against the colonial regime in Natal and Theophilus Shepstone, the Secretary for Native Affairs, Colenso found himself even further estranged from colonial society in Natal. Bishop Colenso's concern about the misleading information that was being provided to the colonial secretary in London by Shepstone and the governor of Natal prompted him to champion the cause of the Zulus against Boer repression and official encroachments. He was a prominent critic of Sir Bartle Frere's efforts to depict the Zulu kingdom as a threat to Natal. Colenso's campaigns revealed the dark, racist foundation underpinning the colonial regime in Natal and made him enemies among the colonists. British Prime Minister Disraeli's Tory administration in London did not want a war with the Zulus. The fact is, wrote Sir Michael Hicks Beach, who would replace Carnarvon as Secretary of State for the Colonies, in November 1878, that matters in Eastern Europe and India were so serious an aspect that we cannot have a Zulu war in addition to other greater and two possible troubles. However, Sir Bartle Frere had already been into the Cape Colony as Governor and High Commissioner since 1877 with the brief of creating a confederation of South Africa from the various British colonies, Boer republics and native states, and his plans were well advanced. He had concluded that the powerful Zulu kingdom stood in the way of this, and so was receptive to Shepstone's arguments that King Sete and his Zulu army posed a threat to the peace of the region. Preparations for a British invasion of the Zulu kingdom had been underway for months. In December 1878, notwithstanding the reluctance of the British government to start yet another colonial war, Frere presented Sete with an ultimatum that the Zulu army be disbanded and the Zulus accept a British resident. This was unacceptable to the Zulus as it effectively meant that Sete, had he agreed, would have lost his throne. Zulu Kingdom. Shaka Zulu, the first Zulu king, had, through war and conquest, built the small Zulu tribe into the Zulu Kingdom, which by 1825 encompassed an area of around 11,500 square miles. In 1828 he was assassinated at Ukuza by one of his indunas and two of his half-brothers, one of whom, Dingana Kasenzangakona, succeeded him as king. By the 1830s migrating Boers came into conflict with the Zulu Kingdom, then ruled by Dingana. Dingana suffered a crushing defeat on 16 December 1838. when he attacked a group of 470 Voortrekker settlers led by Pretorius at the Battle of Blood River. Dingaan's half-brother, Mpanda Kasenzangakono, then defected with some 17,000 followers and allied with the Boers against Dingana. Dingana was assassinated and Mpanda became king of the Zulu Empire. In 1839, the Boer Voortrekkers, under Pretorius, formed the Boer Republic of Natalia, south of the Tugela, and west of the British settlement of Port Natal. Mpanda and Pretorius maintained peaceful relations. However, in 1842, war broke out between the British and the Boers, resulting in the British annexation of Natalia. Mpanda shifted his allegiance to the British, and remained on good terms with them. In 1843, Mpanda ordered a purge of perceived dissidents within his kingdom. This resulted in numerous deaths, and the fleeing of thousands of refugees into neighboring areas, including the British-controlled Natal. Many of these refugees fled with cattle, the main measure of the Zulu wealth. Mpanda began raiding the surrounding areas, culminating in the invasion of Swaziland in 1852. However, the British pressured him into withdrawing, which he did shortly. At this time, a battle for the succession broke out between two of Mpanda's sons, Sethsheyo and Mbayazi. This culminated in 1856 with the Battle of Ndandakaska, which left Mbayazi dead. Sethsheyo then set about usurping his father's authority. When Mpanda died of old age in 1872, Sethsheyo took over as ruler. In 1861, Umtonga, a brother of Sethsheyo, and another son of Zulu King Mpanda, fled to the Utrecht district, and Sethsheyo assembled an army on that frontier. According to claims later brought forward by the Boers, Sethsheyo offered the farmers a strip of land along the border if they would surrender his brother. The Boers complied on the condition that Umtonga's life was spared, and in 1861 Mpanda signed a deed transferring this land to the Boers. The south boundary of the land added to Utrecht ran from Rorke's Drift on the Buffalo to a point on the Pongola River. The boundary was beaconed in 1864, but when in 1865 Umtonga fled from Zululand to Natal, Sethsheyo, seeing that he had lost his part of the bargain, caused the beacon to be removed, and also claimed the land ceded by the Swazis to Lydenburg. The Zulus asserted that the Swazis were their vassals and therefore had no right to part with this territory. During the year, a Boer commando under Paul Kruger and an army under Sethsheyo were posted to defend the newly acquired Utrecht border. The Zulu forces took back their land north of the Pongola. Questions were also raised as to the validity of the documents signed by the Zulus concerning the Utrecht Strip. In 1869, the services of the Lieutenant Governor of Natal, then Robert William Keat, were accepted by both parties as arbitrator, but the attempts then made to settle disagreements proved unsuccessful. Sethsheyo permitted European missionaries in Zululand. However, the activities of the missionaries were unwelcome to Sethsheyo. Though he did not harm or persecute the missionaries themselves, several converts were killed. The missionaries, for their part, were a source of hostile reports. While numerous Zulus of rival factions fled into Natal and some of the surrounding areas, Sethsheyo continued and maintained the peaceful relations with the Natal colonists that had prevailed for decades. Such was the political background when Sethsheyo became absolute ruler of the Zulus upon his father's death in 1873. As ruler, Sethsheyo set about reviving the military methods of his uncle Shaka as far as possible. He formed new age set regiments and even succeeded in equipping his regiments with a few antiquated muskets and other outdated firearms. Most Zulu warriors were armed with an IKLWA and a shield made of cowhide. The Zulu army drilled in the personal and tactical use and coordination of this weapon system. While some Zulus also had firearms, their marksmanship training was poor and the quality and supply of powder and shot dreadful. The Zulu attitude towards firearms was that